Hey, this is Mike. I just wanted to give a little update on the TwinSync Studio demo. So I've released new versions. If you've ever, for some reason, decided to re-download the app, now's your time to realize that that's actually a thing to do because not releasing auto updates or anything, but I have been replacing the app at the link for those that have signed up for the demo. So you can actually go and re-download it and get new features. And you can ask me if you want. At some point, I'll be releasing a change log, but still demo. So anyway, the point is there's now a bunch of new features. Most of it is the fact that you can now cluster things, and there are a few extra options. If you don't want to use this menu, I recommend the top ones. It's called uninstanced, or in some cases, I actually call it single use. Meshes get merged or clustered. So here's the cluster merging strategy. You can either merge everything within a particular animation, merge everything within a particular element, merge everything, or merge all things that are not reused. So all things that aren't instanced. And that's the most performance. So I recommend single use meshes with an element because that usually does not eclipse the 2 GB static mesh size limit in Unreal. And it also provides the least draw calls, so it's the most performant. There are a few other options you can play with here, like angle tolerance. You can even turn on decimation if you want. And you can filter by viewport visibility, which actually means if you go and like click something here and hide it, then when you export using this menu specifically, then it will actually filter it out. In the future, this stuff will all also work inside the scripting menu, but just trying to be faster, so put it there for now. And there's some other features that we'll be adding in the future. So anyway, now that I've shown some of that stuff, whoa, okay, here we go. So I just want to show how to change materials. I've made some slight changes that make it a lot easier. So basically all I want to do is go to what I have starter content here. You can add starter content in the add menu. Just go to the content pack section and add starter content. You can also add from wherever, like the Fab Marketplace, wherever you have your materials. And I'm going to go and just grab materials and find grass here. So I'm just going to put grass on this guy. I want to use some nice grass material. In the future, I'll also release some examples of how to automate adding materials to things. Like if you add materials to these guys, they may not necessarily, you don't want to add something to every single window at the same time. You want to do some sort of automation for that. So I will show that in a little bit. But for now, we're just looking at how to edit the actual material to work with the animation. Because right now, if I hit play, all of a sudden this landscaping part, which is actually the last part, is just visible all the time. Because even though it's not its turn to show up yet, it's no longer caring about the animation because we have not added it in. So if you go to anybody else and look at their material, this is the one provided by the plugin. That's the instance, this is the actual material. And you'll see that it's using a material function called iTwin schedule animation. So if I go to this guy and just copy and paste that in, you don't actually have to copy and paste it. You can just type material function here and find it. This may get renamed in a future version, but also if you've already imported the plug or installed the plugin into your project and you are now using the new version, you will probably have to install the plugin again. So you can just delete it in your folder and then hit the install plugin button inside the app again. If you don't know what that is, that's this guy over here, just to get the new version, which contains these changes. The main change is now there's a bunch of inputs. So previously you actually had to take the color and then figure out yourself what to do with it, which is not great, especially because some of the blending is completely non-obvious. So that is now switched up. What we can do now is this normal input is going to go to the custom normal here, and then we're going to take the animated normal. Normal, I don't think we actually do anything with it, but we control it for now just in case we decide to change the cutting plane animation logic. So besides that, if I go opacity to, so I want to attach to opacity mask, but we can't even use that yet until we click on the material and change the blend mode to masked. So that way it's possible to make parts of it fully transparent, masked, and parts of it opaque, so actually visible. Okay, now the last thing that we have to do, we don't need a custom opacity, by the way, because there's no opacity for this material, so it'll just default to opacity of 1 of being not transparent at all, except for when the animation wants it because of this material function. So what we want to do is just add a static bool which says true, that we do want to use these custom inputs that we've just added. Okay, so now that we're done with that, we can apply the material. And now when we hit play, we will see that it's no longer just sitting there. See, so now when it comes, it will have its turn. Yep. Okay, so then it'll progress. Let me show a couple of things just because these have changed. So the schedule manager now does not actually require an associated level sequence. If you do not have one set, it will animate itself using these properties. Otherwise, if you give it, if you do decide to use the animation that came through, then it will do everything based on that. It will just synchronize with that, and you should use its properties. They're the exact same properties, autoplay, play rate. So I'm just going to set play rate to 2 here, and I'm going to actually check that I succeeded. Yes. And now when I hit play, it'll work because there's no associated level sequence set. If I did associated level sequence, I would have to use the one that came through when I imported. And, it's still going to do the transformations, by the way, and the visibility. See, so things are still moving. It's also twice as fast now. It just depends on what you want or how you want to do it. Okay, so I just want to get to the grass here so we can see. And then I'm just going to show some metadata for the future, for a potential future video where we are automating the setting of materials using either data prep or blueprint editor scripts. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's say that you also want to, change all these glass panels, and then you go to do that. So I go back to my materials, and I grab my glass and I put it on here, and you're like, wait a second, are you telling me, Mike, that you have to go through and put this glass material on every single pane? And the answer is no, obviously. However, it's not as good as it could be, because I'll tell you what. So one option you have is you can go into the mesh itself and set the material there. By the way, I've not actually edited this material to work with the animation, but I'm not going to play the animation, so that shouldn't be an issue for me. And yeah, so that works for these guys. However, as you can see, it didn't even get all of them because these turn out to be separate instances. So, that's just an issue with the original data. This one doesn't have, or these ones I overrided earlier, so that's why they didn't switch to glass. But, a much better way of doing this is we want to look at the metadata and match it. So right now, there's not a ton of metadata, so if you have specific metadata that you want me to pass through, this is actually an older version, so there's more metadata now. There's now a user label, which will usually tell you, like, this is a window. So right now, it's actually not showing the latest version of the plugin, because this is an older export that I made before I updated the plugin to add more metadata. But that user label will tell you what, usually what this is, and you can use it to most of the mesh just in a blueprint, which I have an example here, an editor utility blueprint. You can basically sort through the actors, get this Datasmith user data from them, and then set the materials and stuff. So this is an example that a user contributed just for you to look through and figure out a little bit to do yourself and check out how editor, you can just refer to Unreal's documentation on how Unreal Editor blueprints work. But, feel free to come to me with questions and I can try to help you or find stuff for you. But yeah, with that, you can actually automate whatever you want. If the metadata that I haven't put in there doesn't exist for you, if I haven't put it in there for you yet, then you can ask. Right now, the plan is to be able to access that metadata here. And here you will have a material output that you can attach. And then for each mesh, you can, using the entire, without having to push everything into Unreal, where it might be a bit much, you'll be able to access whatever data you want from the data sources that you have, in this case, iTwin, and be like, okay, what is the user label? What is this, quantity material or whatever? I'm going to decide how I want to set my Unreal material from there. And then not only will you be deciding which Datasmith file to go out to, in this case, a file named iModel, for each mesh, you'll also be deciding which material to set to it in that, within that file. So yeah, that's the plan for that. But hopefully at least you could see how you might go about setting all the materials. You can also use data prep for this, by the way. The editor utility blueprint is very similar to just using a data prep script to import the Datasmith. So it's really up to you. But yeah, now you can get fancy materials and attach them very easily using your existing ones, and they'll still participate in the animation. So thank you very much. Hope that wasn't too much information. Let me know if you have any questions. But just wanted to share for anybody that's trying to build a cool looking scene with this stuff. Thank you. Bye.